Good afternoon. Thank you guys for showing up. You should be here for the Mobile Device Management and ArcGIS Field Apps Demo Theater, right? We're all in the right place? So thanks for coming to see us. We appreciate it. Heather McCracken and I are presenting the session. Heather is one of the product engineers who works out of our Portland, Maine office, and she works with all the field apps. And my name is Derek, and I work on the ArcGIS, the apps product management team, and I work with James and stuff. So normally whenever I do a tech session, I always have some joke slides, but it's very tight. We only have 25 minutes. So I will do a simple verbal joke, right? It's just I'm nervous. This topic is very complex. So let's see, just to make sure everyone's in a good mood. So here is a joke. Let me think. Okay. I'm totally drawing a blank. Oh, who is smarter? Longitude or latitude? It's a geography joke. Just as a recap, remember geography, we have the globe, we have the lines, right? So latitude lines go from north to south, longitude goes east-west. Any guesses? Longitude is smarter because it has more degrees. Get it? 0 to 90, 0 to, I know. I'm here. Today's my last day. But anyways, yes. All right. With that, we'll get started. So what are we going to talk about in the next half an hour? We have a brief agenda, which is we'll talk briefly about security, and then I'll do a quick review on what we mean when we say, security with respect to the ArcGIS field apps. And then for those of you who may be new to the topic, we'll briefly kind of introduce what mobile device management or what MDM technology is. And then we'll have some demos that Heather will give. And then we'll talk kind of at a very high level, what's the state of our support for MDM technology, and we'll take any questions. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have already deployed an MDM technology in your organization? Okay, a few of you. That's great. Please come see us if you have more detailed questions. What we found is not a lot of customers are using it right now, but we're starting to get more questions. So I want to preface this session by saying, do we have all the answers? No. This is an active research area that we're starting to investigate further. Does that make sense? So I want to set expectations because I don't want to get annihilated on the review by saying, hey, I didn't have this configuration. But come see us. We want to get more feedback from you guys, all right? So to start off with at a high level, right, security in the ArcGIS field apps, this is obviously really important. I'm sure many of you watch the news and you've heard from the news, many organizations getting hacked, various hotel chains getting hacked, the security information is exposed. Not good for you if you're the GIS manager, analyst, or you maintain your organization's spatial data. So this is an important area, and this is why we're talking about MDM technology, because it relates to securing your data in the field. So to kind of recap, when we refer to the ArcGIS field apps, you may have seen this slide in other field app sessions, right? We have this field operations circle, and we have a suite of apps that you can work with in the field. From Workforce for ArcGIS, which allows you to coordinate your assets in the field with a dispatcher, Navigator for ArcGIS, our routing app. We have several different data collection apps, Collector for ArcGIS, our map-centric data collection app, Survey 123, our form-centric data collection app, Explorer, which is our kind of like viewer app. There's also Drone to Map, which allows you to take imagery from a drone and you can process it quickly in a desktop, and Operations Dashboard. Now, I've covered it all on this slide, but you'll notice that Drone to Map, Operations Dashboard, and Desktop are actually grayed out. So for the purposes of this session, we are not referring to those three applications. We're only referring to Workforce, Navigator, Survey 123, Collector, and Explorer. Okay? That's the extent of what we're involved in. So in terms of security configurations, what are my options? Very broad topic, and we kept this slide really simple, which is the fact that obviously many of you know that your field apps connect to a portal. It could be ArcGIS Online, or it could be the portal for ArcGIS component of ArcGIS Enterprise. And depending on your deployment option, you have many different types of security or authentication options available to you. And about a year ago, we actually published a white paper called ArcGIS Secure Mobile Implementations, and I provided a link. Now I want to jump out briefly, and I want to show you that you can get it off of GeoNet. So if you can't remember the URL, just simply Google ArcGIS Secure Mobile Implementation Patterns. What does that contain? I wanted to mention this document because it covers quite a bit of topics that, if you haven't seen this document, it may be of interest, right? So let me just zoom out a little bit. In this topic, we give you some background on, what is the WebGIS concept? Why do I care in terms of security? How does it affect me? Because you guys may be the technical person or manager, but you may have to sell this idea to senior management and get buy-in. Then it proceeds to discuss the two different ways to deploy a WebGIS, either with a SaaS offering and ArcGIS Online, or maybe you have ArcGIS Enterprise and you're running the entire stack within your own infrastructure. More importantly, it goes over the various security options that are available to you, right, with respect to the mobile apps. You'll notice in this white paper, we do cover the field apps, but we also mention a couple of other apps, which again, we're not going to mention in the context of the demo theater, which is Business Analyst and App Studio. Now, if I scroll down further, we go over MDMs briefly, and we mention at a conceptual level what it is and what's Esri's approach. Now, because this document was written a year ago, it's a little bit light. As an FYI, our intention is to publish a second security white paper, more on MDM technology and the field apps, and we're hoping to have something available by user conference timeframe. As I mentioned at the start of this session, we're doing active research and development in this area. We're starting to get questions. We don't have a comprehensive list, and we're doing testing, and this is where you guys can come in. Please come see us and give us feedback. What are some areas of concerns that you have? Because there's so many different configuration options and permutations. It's just a vast, broad range of topics for us to cover. Does that make sense? The other thing I want to highlight with this document is the fact that it goes over authentication. And again, if you're using ArcGIS Online, you have three different options using the built-in security logins. You can have enterprise logins if you're using a SAML identity provider, or social logins. Whereas with ArcGIS Enterprise, again, you have three different options. Okay, so again, we just wanted to highlight this to you as a resource. If you're getting started, this is a great place to start. Also, though, kind of related is, as you start to deploy your assets in the field, this document covers and answers the question, well, where is my data stored? So at the end of this document, there's a couple of different patterns where if I store all my data in ArcGIS Online, is it secure? Versus what if I have my data in an enterprise geodatabase, I want to access that resource through a registered layer in ArcGIS Online, and then I want to go out into the field. So it goes over the different deployment patterns, talks briefly about the conceptual architecture, but then more importantly lists like risk level and pro-con advantages that you might want to consider, right? And this does not absolute. I mean, you may have an enterprise deployment and you could use several of these patterns for various projects. It really depends, all right? All right, so doing that high-level overview, how does this relate to the topic? Well, many organizations, as we're learning recently, have decided to use mobile device management technology. And it's a pretty broad area, but the idea would be typically medium or larger organizations would purchase a third-party technology to basically give them control over their staff's mobile device assets. And of course, it's to enforce security, it's to enforce policies with smartphones, and it's supposed to make the IT admin's role a lot easier. That's why this question is coming up. As we move towards the enterprise space and deal with larger customers, they're asking Esri, hey, how does Collector, how does Survey123 work with this environment, right? There's lots of different organizations that, companies that make various MDM platforms. We don't test them all. I'm going to mention in a bit which ones we are actively looking at. Now, what are the benefits, right? I'm sure many of you, in fact, I would argue everyone has a smartphone or a device of their own. Organizations are wrestling with the question, do they purchase devices for their staff, or do they support a bring your own device policy? This is where an MDM platform can come into play to make it easier to enforce security, to enforce their policies, right? Keeping their apps and their data secure, and also monitoring to make sure that there's no malware on a device. And again, I'm sure Heather, not myself, but Heather could spend a whole hour talking about MDM technology. We don't have time for that. We just want to highlight this aspect, that MDMs are typically part of a larger enterprise mobility management strategy, which again, we kind of discussed briefly within that security white paper that I mentioned. Now, with respect to us, what is Esri doing today? So in the last 6 months or so, the development teams have started to investigate, number one, MDM technology. What is our level of support and what is possible? It's an active research and development area. As you can see, the development team currently has access to 4 different platforms, right? AirWatch, Microsoft Intune, Mobile Iron, and recently in the last month, they just got Samsung Knox. So what we're going to show you today is what we've done and tested on these platforms. If your organization is using a different MDM technology, we're not saying we don't support it, we're just saying we're not sure yet, right? If you have a different MDM platform, please let us know and we can add it to our list so we can start to look at that. So what are the use cases for using MDM with our field apps, right? Well, the first, of course, is VPN, right? Can I basically launch an app and connect into the internal network to access the secure resources? Another one might be app config. Maybe I can preset some setting within my app so when the user loads it up, he or she, the person in the field, doesn't have to worry about that property and it's already taken care of for them. And finally, another possible workflow is doing file and content sharing, okay? We don't have time to go through all the specific use cases. What we thought best was, in the context of a demo theater, Heather's going to show you and demo what's possible now, and then we'll kind of recap what we've done some testing on. So how about I switch to you?
Yeah, sounds good.
You are one?
I am number 1.
Okay.
More ways. 1.
You're on.
Okay, good. Thank you. So what we're looking at here is AirWatch's. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. AirWatch's Workspace ONE Intelligent Hub. So this is the dashboard for AirWatch. This happens to be one of the EMM solutions that our customers use. I'm just happy to use it today. It's an easy one to sort of talk you through, but each of them are different. And but all these same concepts, I think, will apply across no matter what your solution is. So don't get caught up hopefully too much in this piece of software, because often this is managed by an IT department, hopefully, or if it's you, you'll sort of fumble about and figure it out. It's not actually that dramatic to get our field apps on your device and also to configure them. So I'm going to focus the demo on deploying applications, our field apps, and as well doing adding some settings so that you can deploy with predefined settings. And then I'll even show you per app VPN at the end if the stars align. So, but again, the intention of this demo is so that you can bring this information back to your organization and see if there's some efficiencies that you can gain by employing this type of approach. Okay, so what we're looking at here is, as I said, the hub. So this is the dashboard. This is where a manager would define the profiles that are going to restrict access, maybe require passcodes, do those security pieces that Derek was talking about. It's also where you will deploy your apps, add the apps that you want to have on people's devices. So you can see from this left-hand side is all the different categories of things that you can look at in AirWatch here. I can monitor and see how many devices have been deployed, what the operating system is, are they in compliance, so general metrics on your managed devices. That's not specific to our software, that's just in general how that works. When I look at the Devices tab, I can see a list view here. And you can see that there's a device at the top. It's actually the only one in compliance because we're all we're all off doing our things. But this is my device, so you can actually see all the devices that have been registered or are being managed, and you can drill into these and learn more about what's happening. I can get whether the device is in compliance. I can see what apps have been deployed to this particular device. You can see that I have a few on my device that are unmanaged, just things that I have, as well as things like Explorer and Collector Classic that have been pushed to me through the MDM. All right, well, let's get started by deploying an app to my phone. All right, so I'm going to add, actually one more thing I want to show you beforehand is the way that you deploy an app or the way that you assign things to a device is through a group. So each of these devices will belong to a group in many of these MDM solutions. So this could be a business unit, it could be backed by your Windows groups, and my phone happens to belong to a group called Field Apps. Dev Summit, very specific. So that's what we're going to use when I add the app we're going to deploy and assign through the group. All right, so we're going to go to the Apps section here, and I have the option of adding native applications, web applications. I can add an application that's internal, maybe something that you're building locally, but I'm going to add the Collector Aurora app, and I'm going to specify that I'm looking on the iOS platform, and I'm going to search the App Store, and this is going to go out and actually query the App Store. I found the app Collector Aurora here that I want to add. Here it is, and I'm going to save and assign it. So that's a way of this. Oops, because I already have another one, Collector, sorry, Aurora. See, you know why? Because I've already.
Maybe because you've already added it?
I've already added it, so there we go. There we go. Sorry, Demo 101 did not clear it up. So I've already added it, so let's just go in and I'll edit it and we can go through the same properties that we would see otherwise. All right, so this is the same workflow, we've just sort of skipped the searching for it step. Save and assign. All right, so now I'm going to add an assignment. So this is where I choose that group of devices that I want to have this deployed to. So I can search for the group, Field Apps Dev Summit, and I can choose how I want this app delivered to the device. Is it automatically? A lot of times that's nice. You don't have to think about it. It just gets automatically deployed. For the demo today, I'm going to use on demand because I can kind of dictate exactly when it gets deployed to the device as opposed to waiting a few minutes that the automatic deployment might take. So I'm going to set some settings here, enabling managed access. And you have some options here. This is going to be specific to your organization. Do you want to remove the application when the device becomes unenrolled and things like that? So I'll just set some options here. This is a nice one, and even if the app has already been installed on the device, that once the device becomes enrolled and this is pushed, it will automatically the MDM will take over management of that application. All right, so that's all it takes. I'm just going to save and assign, and I'll switch over to. Derek, could you switch me over to number 3? All right, So I'm going to launch the catalog. So there's a couple of applications that when your phone becomes managed, whichever MDM solution you have will have a couple client-side applications that are used to, one, monitor the device, make sure everything's in compliance, which is what that hub application is in the upper left-hand corner. And I also have a catalog, and this is for the applications that have been pushed to me through the MDM. So I'm going to install Collector. And hopefully this will be pretty quick. This was quick when I was sitting over there, so hopefully it'll be...
Slow internet today.
Is it? All right. While that's downloading, I'm going to start the next section of the demo.
Want me to switch? You? Your
Actually,
call.
it's going to finish, I think, here. There we go. So there it is, not very dramatic. I now have Collector Aurora that's been deployed to my device through the mobile, through MDM. So then, yes, Derek, could you switch me over? So what I'll do next is I want to actually set some of those app config settings. So I actually want to not have people have to set their portal URL. So I'm going to specify that in an app config setting here. So I'm just going to simply edit that assignment. So just go back into where we just were. Scroll down to the bottom, and there's a simple thing to enable application configuration. When I do, I have these new key value pair options available to me to supply here. And our apps, our field apps, support this portal URL property. And I'm just going to type in the connection to our portal, add that, and redeploy. And it's as simple as that. You're just basically setting some key value pairs, whatever's supported in the field apps. I'll publish this. And then once I do, Derek, you'll switch me over. I'll launch Collector, and you'll notice right away it's connecting to that portal that I just set. And I presented with the OAuth screen. So this is really powerful. It seems pretty straightforward. It's a string that you've passed to your application. But now, none of your field workers need to remember what that portal is, so you can define that yourself. I'll keep going here. How are we doing on time?
We've got 5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right. I'm gonna zip through this last bit. Navigator for ArcGIS, so which I just launched Navigator. It also has this portal URL setting, but it's also got a different setting. Actually, put me back on. Yeah, so I'm going to show you. There's a new setting for Navigator coming at our next release, which is coming soon, quite soon. And we also support the portal URL, but also something called enabling local authentication. And that's just tying into your device's biometrics. So if you've set your fingerprints or your face ID, you can force that to be required when your application comes in from the background or is launched. And that's as simple. You guys can see that there. So not only do I have the portal URL, I also have this enable local authentication set to true. I'm going to come into Navigator here. And that was just me using my fingerprint for my credentials. So here we are. The app has been launched. If I put this in the background and then bring it back to the foreground. There we go. Oops. 1 sec. I was impatient there. Sign in.
It's plugging too fast.
All right, so I'm going to push it to the background. bring it back to the foreground, and then I'm prompted with this biometric. So if you want to have that extra sense of security, so that anytime anyone leaves their phone idle and they bring it back, you cannot actually force that to be set.
Cool.
Yes. I did want to show the per app VPN, but I don't know if we have enough time.
I don't think we have time.
Okay, but if anybody's interested in seeing the per app VPN, which is also supported with our applications, I'm happy to demo it to one and all after this.
It's kind of tricky. We were given like this half-hour time slot for this really broad topic.
Yeah.
So slide, quick demo recap. Heather used AirWatch. You saw her through AirWatch connect to the store, grab the new collector, right? Download it. Didn't have to configure collector in any way. Then she went into AirWatch and configured the portal URL scheme. So when then she launched collector, it automatically populated. The other demo she showed was that Navigator, which was already deployed, supports one additional property, which is this enable local authorization, where they required that biometric thumbprint to activate it. And you saw her push that out from AirWatch, and then it activated in her app. So this is that high-level chart, right? What do our apps currently support? You'll notice all of them support portal URL. Survey 123 is coming very soon. It's built on App Studio, which is also coming very soon. And the Navigator has the enable local authentication. Now, if you guys have specific requirements, come see us. As I said, this is an emerging R&D field for the Field Apps team. We want to hear what our customers and users want, because it's just too broad to support everything and anything in terms of policies. Does that make sense? So if you have specific needs, let us know. As a high-level overview, the team's following this app config community, specification, if you will, to try to follow that pattern. Okay. So the last slide we have is, resources. There's a couple of blogs that I think, Heather, you wrote both of them, or at least one of them for sure.
Yep.
One is talking about MDM with Explorer, and then the other one's with Navigator. So please let us know if your feedback. Please fill out the survey and the evaluation. I guess we'll move off the stage so we can take questions. Thank you guys very much, and have a good rest of your Dev Summit. Thank you.
I think we're actually the last group.
Are we?
So I think we're the last demo theater. So we're happy to actually, I just realized we could have
all right, well,
went on all day.
I'm sorry.
I just realized. I don't think anyone's
do you want to take questions now, or do you want to come up? We also have people from the dev team to help us here who've been doing...
Yeah.
Jen Wei, where did Jen Wei go? Oh, there he is, okay.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yes, I can hear you very good. Yeah, the question is that MDM support pushing content to the device. And what you're asking is, can we sort of tie that into things that our field apps need, like base maps or mobile map packages? Right now, with the research that we've done, the file content sharing is kind of a white list of the types of files that you can share, PDFs, Windows-based, or Microsoft-based things. There's a certain whitelist, and MMPKs and VTBKs are not on that list, surprisingly. But we're investigating what might be a good way to prompt some kind of download of certain files, and it's an area of investigation for us. So there's no way you can really deploy the app with data, so you have to do it in these other ways. Some of the things that we're thinking about is maybe there is an app config setting that you could specify, a map that you want to open or an item ID that you want to download. But I'd be interested to hear after if you come up and sort of describe your particular use case, and we can maybe think of ways that we might want to solve it in the future. Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Let's see. All right, well, so for Navigator, I have a profile that I've already defined in AirWatch. And actually, I could show you the profile if that would help a bit. But these profiles, again, are independent of of Esri. This is just sort of a profile that you would push to your device to know how to connect to your particular VPN client. So I'll show you what that kind of looks like. You can force a passcode. This is an example of where you can force different restrictions. For me, the VPN settings, we're connected through Pulse Secure, and we have per app VPN rules. So this is a profile that I'm going to be using in the next couple steps. So if I go back to the apps, and I'll go straight back to Navigator. So we'll use Navigator again. And all I need to do, let me just double check. No, don't move that. I'm just going to make sure I'm connected to the VPN here. I'm going to edit these settings. So we keep coming back. It's kind of, AirWatch is kind of like, I feel like I'm in a circle half the time, always going back to the same spot. But I'm just going to scroll down again, and you'll see this app tunneling. This is what you're looking for here. I'm going to enable app tunneling. And in order to support that, I need to specify a profile here that has that per app VPN setting with all my my particular VPN information included there. So I just simply add that. Save and publish. So what this does is this profile has already been pushed to my device through my group. So that's independent of any kind of app associated. So that profile is already on the device. You can see I'm connected to the VPN. So this is our Pulse Secure, it happens to be our VPN client, but there's many, so it's kind of a hard topic to cover. I'll publish this actually. I think I didn't finish publishing. Okay. And then when I launch Navigator, so you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner, when you're connected to a device-wide VPN, you'll see that little VPN box that indicates that you're connected. But what you'll see when I launch Navigator, did you notice how the VPN, that VPN icon showed up at the top? There's my local authentication. So can you guys see that, the VPN? And then notice when I dismiss, the VPN goes away. So the VPN is truly scoped to the application. So our apps support that. Of course, we didn't have to do any coding to support that. That's just apps will support it if the MDM and the device supports it. So, yes. Are there any plans for? Oh, Citrix. So just to clarify Derek's comments, we should be able to work with any MDM solution. We're agnostic to it. Really, all the MDM solution is going to do is deploy applications and apply settings and do VPN work. And so if you don't have mobile device manager, how do you do that? You go to the App Store, you download something, you turn on your VPN settings. You can do that all manually, but what the MDM piece of software does is mass deploys that maybe to your environment. So in theory, we should work with all of the above. I think what Derek is rightfully saying is we haven't tested everything, so it's not to say that there may not be issues, but there's a lot to these different solutions. So if you find something specific about the solution that you're using, we would love to hear about it and maybe help work through it. It might take working with that particular vendor to understand, specific issues, but in theory, we should be agnostic to the MDM solution. Yes.
You're talking about the business analyst online field app? So the question was, has the business analyst team done VPN testing? I think the answer is no, but we can definitely talk to them. Like I said, we're doing active research. I would encourage you to go to them at the island and tell them to talk. I know Praveen, we can reach out to him, but yeah, run out now. But
yeah, and I would say like any app, we should, barring, it should be deployable through the MDM, but what we're really interested from you in is these use cases like the gentleman over there describing about maybe wanting to have some content, we should chat after whether that was base maps, but other settings, like other things in that app config that might be useful to you to improve your field workflows. We're really investigating that. We don't totally understand what you need, and so we would love to hear from you in that respect. Any of those blogs, I think my name is on there. Please feel free to reach out to Derek or myself. Any of our field apps, Explorer for ArcGIS, Survey for ArcGIS, they actually go to real people. There's like 5 of us on the dev teams for each of those. So you can reach out to that. To us.
I'll give out my card. If you have specific requirements, email us and let us know so we can start to look at that.
Yeah. Yes.
This might be more of a comment than a question, but just I think when you're doing your testing, to try to make sure that you're testing in the different deployment scenarios of BYOD versus corporate owned. That's one issue we're running into with, specifically with Android and Android Core, and how it silos data and tries to encrypt, the internal storage, and running into some issues deploying under certain patterns where it's a corporate-owned device, but they deploy it as BYOD for some reason, and trying to deploy it to one or the other profiles. It just gets really complex, and it's hard to tell whether it's an MDM problem, whether it's an application problem, whether it's an OS version problem.
Right.
And I know that makes it very challenging for testing, but I know it's something we're running into. So.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that because we can probably target that. We've got, as Derek mentioned, these vendors or these MDM solutions in house, and we're actually building some infrastructure with our own IST department to try to cover some of those bases. So I'd love to learn more about that and make sure we're covering that in our test environment.
So the plan is our intent is to write a white paper, yes, for sure, hopefully by user conference timeframe. I think it's a matter of time, really, but we have had demand because people want to have some kind of official statement, so that's our intent. Yeah.
It wasn't that manageable to manage all those devices. I think it depends probably who is able to manage that deployment. Do you have a dedicated team? Do they have time to understand it? Because certainly when I sort of waltz in and out of this world, it's not easy to waltz in and out of, because if you waltz out and waltz back in, sometimes the dashboard has changed and where they put everything has changed. And so yes, I would, if I had to manage that all on my own, I might have that same claim. But I'd be interested to learn who everybody's using for their MDM solutions or any other information that you guys want to share.
Okay, thank you guys.
Okay, thank you.